Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. I want to start you off first by looking at a radar animation from the last 24 hours. We had several things that we were watching. Early in the morning yesterday when we released our long-range update, I was saying we need to watch the storms that were moving through parts of North and South Dakota because they were going to be producing outflow on which squall was forecast to be basically racing through this part of the United States, bringing some much-needed relief from the extreme heat in that area, but also the worry was about some strong damaging winds going through there. Meanwhile, we saw the remnants of Barry still kind of lingering here in the Ohio River Valley. This moved on off to the east, producing a lot of severe weather and a whole lot of lightning. You'll see in a few minutes why these scattered showers and storms show here, and also why these scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up here on the front range of the mountains. I'm going to show you some of those in a few minutes. So I'm going to get these drawings off here and show you the evolution of this storm system because it was quite interesting here. We see this a lot with this time of year. So that plays pretty fast. Let me take you back to the beginning. Watch as the outflow from these thunderstorms moving through parts of South Dakota turn into a pretty sizable squall line that moves into northwestern Iowa, sweeps right through the center part of Iowa, and then eventually over into eastern Iowa, Illinois, and then moves through the southern half of Illinois. That particular storm system produced a lot of damaging winds, and as it raced through here, it also knocked the temperatures down substantially. You'll see that in a few moments. You also saw, look at the storms that went through parts of the northeast and the storms that popped up on the backside of this bigger ridge that's sitting here and spinning. I want to show you a neat picture here taken by Brian Burt, this panoramic view here of this large shelf cloud moving through in and around the Des Moines area. Well, that storm system that went through there that produced this particular picture, it was kind of neat. You can see in yesterday's high temperatures that right in that corridor, we got some temporary cooling just due to the presence of the clouds and the rain and the outflow, the downdraft, the colder part of the thunderstorm. Meanwhile, all around it, triple-digit heat coming up here into Kansas and southern Nebraska. Same thing over here in the eastern United States, and we were deep into the 90s across a big section of the United States here. Now, we're going to talk in a few minutes about where these temperatures are going in the near term, but I at least want to keep this discussion going about precipitation, because when we look over the last 3 days, we can still see what we had left over from Barry here. These storms, of course, pressing into the northeast. Why these scattered showers and storms here over the last couple of days? But that ridge that was in place was producing these ridge-riding thunderstorms over the last 3 days, and that's an interesting point to make sure that we make, because as we press through summer, this could be something we see quite a bit of, these ridge-riding thunderstorms. Okay, now some of those thunderstorms were severe yesterday, and I want to take you first over here to the East Coast. I want you to see this particular video. It's incredible. Quick shot here of lightning striking that tree in the foreground there. There you go, just peeling away the bark. So thankfully that bark must have been wet and the energy from the strike went through it and just completely stripped it off there. Just incredible to see that. Told you there was a lot of lightning in the storms in the eastern part of the United States. And just to take a look here at storm reports from yesterday, picked up 300 reports. Look at the line right in through here where we picked up those wind reports from that squall line. Same thing here in parts of the northeast. But some of these storms back here on the western side of this system, very photogenic, including this incredible view here of a tornado in Wyoming. And that is just stunning to say the least. But a lot of us were dealing with a lot of very adverse weather out of this. Well, our jet stream is still parked way up here on the border of US and Canada, and I'm right now here in Saskatoon, and we're on the northern side of this where the temperatures have been quite cool and quite rainy. Meanwhile, to the south of it, our ridge is building right in through this area, and we're going to watch it transition to the west with time, and it's going to be bringing in some pretty serious heat here. So if we take a look at where we're looking for our heat today, this is where we have our excessive heat warnings and our excessive heat advisories and our new excessive heat watches over here in the eastern part of the United States. So with that ridge that's building in this area and then shifting west with time, we're still going to be dealing with a few more days of some extreme heat. This is where our temperatures are climbing deep into the 90s and into the lower 100s. And because the Gulf of Mexico moisture is wide open, the temperatures are very, very high in terms of the heat index. If we're not getting any rainfall, our evaporation rates are incredibly high right now. Look in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. This particular corridor in here, seeing evaporation rates over the next week that'll be approaching 3 inches of water coming out of the soil. We can actually even see a larger corridor in through here where we get up into these colors where we're going to be evaporating about 2 inches of water out of the soil if we don't get that coming in, any of that moisture coming in. This is very typical of the desert Southwest, seeing here evaporation rates even going off my chart. starts, but again, it is the desert right now. So we're going to watch out for that too, because this has got me concerned that if we're not getting any of the rainfall from any of these hit or miss storms, we will be seeing flash drought conditions setting up in some places, which is absolutely devastating for some of the crop right now, given the planting conditions we put it into. So what are we watching in the next 24 hours or so? Well, there is some relief coming from this heat, and it's going to be coming in the form of a couple of fronts that will be sneaking through, followed by higher atmospheric pressure pushing into this area. But in the meantime, scattered showers and thunderstorms over the southeast today, and we're still watching parts of the north central United States getting into the Great Lakes states for more severe weather today. Just to kind of show you what that looks like, let's begin first here around 6 o'clock in the morning with our high-resolution rapid refresh model. As we click play on this, we can see storms still sweeping through this corridor of the United States. Watch it again with me here. Early in the morning, pressing through Wisconsin, then again in Minnesota, back through Wisconsin again, racing through Michigan. Meanwhile, we do still see a lot of scattered shower and thunderstorm activity over the southeast, where we're still dealing with a lingering boundary that's sliding through that area. It's actually what's still left over from the disturbance that was Barry coming through here. But higher atmospheric pressure in control across a big section of the middle part of the country, letting the heat in, but keeping the convection, the storms suppressed here. So it's really going to be a couple of very active corridors here today that we're watching for some strong to severe thunderstorms. Okay, let me show you when the relief comes from the heat. We're going to look here at precipitable water. So when you look at this, we're actually looking at an anomaly. And what is precipitable water? It's the amount of moisture in the atmosphere that we can be using for rainfall. And wherever you see these colors here, we're talking about an excess of water compared to average, and this would be a deficit. Now check out this animation. As I click play, we're going to be seeing that in the day on Thursday through Friday, into Saturday, we've got a lot of moisture, a lot of excess moisture, so the heat and humidity is high. But watch what happens as it gets you past Saturday into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. This is now getting into Monday morning. Look at the cooler, drier air that is moving through the eastern part of the country, while the moisture then rebounds here out west and stays relatively high down here in the southeast. Now it's going to take Tuesday into Wednesday before that cooler and drier air really pushes down here clear to the Gulf Coast. And look, you can tell what the ridge is doing, right? You can tell that it is building back west, and look at the moisture returning in the atmosphere deep into our Canadian provinces here of Alberta and Saskatchewan. It's amazing to see that. Now, you can also see a tropical system emerging here off the Baja, but that cooler, drier air as it comes in here, we got several days of this kind of bringing us some relief here from places that are extremely hot right now. So if we step up into the upper levels of the atmosphere, let's watch that ridge transition so that we can understand its duration. Then we'll get into the details of temperature and precipitation. So first things first, our broader trough still sweeping through parts of the northwest into British Columbia and Alberta here. And this is what's going to be keeping a very active pattern in the Canadian prairies, and also cooler weather in that area in the near term. But the ridge that's sitting here will be building west with time, and let's just kind of play this out to see it. There goes the ridge. Now it's setting up firmly here over the western United States. And about the only important difference I could tell you in the longer run, because you've now seen me animate this multiple times in several videos here, is that we have seen some model trend here bringing up the heights. You know, we've been talking about this broader trough that's setting up here that's going to help cool down the eastern half of the country. Well, we've seen it moderate a bit with time, taking temperatures much closer to normal while the heat is building in the western part of the United States under this ridge. So let's kind of take a look quickly at those temperatures here. Start you off in the day on Thursday looking at high temperatures. So this is not the heat index. Remember, the heat index values will be well into the triple digits where we're seeing these higher temperatures here. But this is starting off the day on Thursday here. And if we let this get into Friday, still another scorcher. A lot of triple-digit heat, upper 90s extending clear into Wisconsin, Michigan, a huge section of the country, very, very hot. But the only place that has some relief is up here closer to the jet stream in Montana and parts of North Dakota, and then getting into the Canadian prairies. But we know that by the time we get into Saturday, we're watching that cooler, drier air come in. Look at it. This is Sunday's high temperatures. Now we're getting into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we need to get through the weekend before we see some real, relief from the heat here in the eastern part of the country. And then you noticed, I got you out now to Wednesday. Look at the heat now building back out west as that ridge transition in that direction. What about our overnight low temperatures? Well, take a look at this. That right now, extremely high overnight low temperatures as some of the crop is in pollination in the midsection of the country is bad. And as I play this thing forward, you're going to see we're going to stay with these really hot overnight low temperatures, maybe at times in parts of Iowa, Illinois here approaching 80 degrees for the overnight low. Well, watch what happens as we get from Saturday into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They go back much closer to climatology here, bringing in that relief with the drier and cooler air. But we still have several more days here as we get through our end of our weekend where we've got the heat on and the hot overnight low temperatures. Okay, looking bigger picture here, North America, next 5 days. Remember, the jet stream was largely doing something like this. So cooler pattern in through here, hot in this particular area. Days 5 through 10. Now, this is about the time where we start to bring in the relief. So we're looking at a 2 to 3 degree change in temperature here compared to average while the heat builds out west. We saw that very clearly here. So parts of the Canadian prairies, of course, going back over to a warmer pattern after spending several days with a cooler pattern. Looking out at the day 11 to 15 time period, European left. Over here is the GFS on the right. The GFS has been a lot cooler than the European model has. We've actually seen some moderation in the longer range from the European, keeping a lot of the heat out west, but it's trying to keep this upper level trough more confined and flatter here over the Hudson Bay versus the more amplified pattern from the GFS. That's one of the bigger differences here. So that means a return to much more normal temperatures in this area with the cooler bias still kind of hanging on in the northern part of the U.S. That's what we're looking at here as we get out into the very beginning of August. Now, precipitation is another matter, and remember, summertime precipitation forecasting is extremely challenging. So just looking at ensemble models here, this is the next 15 days from the European, and this is the GFS. We do see some agreement right in through this corridor of being wetter than average. We're going to see that again in a few minutes. We also see the models both trying to paint a wetter region right in through here, a lot of that rain coming here in the near term. Where there's major discrepancies, and I talked about this in the long range yesterday, is down here across the Gulf Coast. European model picking up on a much wetter pattern than otherwise. And even though you see drier tucked away through parts of the Corn Belt, we will be getting hit or miss showers and storms once the pattern recovers after the cool down shows up. And I'm going to show you that in detail in just a few moments here. So let's take a look at it. Starting you off, this is Thursday morning, 6 a.m. We're still watching, remember, storms moving through parts of Minnesota into Wisconsin and Michigan. So we're going to see that pretty routinely. The overall pattern is dominated by a strong subtropical high sitting out here, pushing like this. And we're going to be watching higher atmospheric pressure slide in that direction. So keep an eye on that with me here. Ready? So as we click play, let's go right through here. You see storms throughout the day on Thursday pushing into Wisconsin and Michigan. This is now getting into early Friday morning there in Michigan. And then by the time we get into Friday afternoon, the heat's still on under this dominant ridge in this area. Storms running the periphery, so we can see it up here in Minnesota here for Friday night. Now, by the time we get into late Friday night into Saturday morning, still all the storms are running on the periphery of this larger upper level ridge that's sitting in this area. Okay. Once we get into Saturday night and into Sunday, what I want you to watch is this area of higher atmospheric pressure. This is the change in the models as this broader ridge surface ridge, but upper level trough, slides right in through this area, coming down into this quarter. So watch this again with me. Watch this again. That higher atmospheric pressure moves in. Here it is. This is Sunday. And it slides into the Great Lakes states. Now you notice that all along the edge of that higher atmospheric pressure where the dryer is coming in, we're going to get showers and storms showing up. So this is Sunday afternoon, a lot of showers and thunderstorms in this area. But then you're going to notice once that ridge starts to push into the Great Lakes states, the precipitation gets pushed farther and farther to the south. And we're going to see several days next week of drier conditions right here in and around the Great Lakes states and into the Corn Belt. And there it is. This is now getting out to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even into Friday. So you saw several days in a row here of some drier conditions, and thankfully the temperatures are not going to be as extreme. And all of that is happening as that drier air pushes the moisture back down to the south with that highly amplified flow pattern. Now, as it does that, look at where the storms then emerge. They come back through parts of the Canadian prairies here late next week. And that's really what we're looking at here in terms of precipitation, getting you out at least through the next week. Looking into week 2, things are a bit unsettled just because prediction is pretty low that far out. So to show you the total precipitation over the next week or so, remember a lot of this is coming early in the time period here as the storm's right around that ridge. And then as it presses farther to the south, you're getting the rainfall there. But we're going to spend a significant part of next week dry inside that circle that I drew there. Okay, dry, but thankfully cooler. Quickly giving you an update globally, we know that some heat is pretty serious heat's moving into parts of Western Europe in the coming days. It got you out to Tuesday. So just as the heat is dropping off in the U.S., this deeper trough sitting in this area and a ridge building like this is bringing in a lot of heat to parts of Germany, France, and the Iberian Peninsula. With that position of that trough, look at the moisture that's coming through parts of the British Isles here. Meanwhile, much of Europe under that ridge is dry. But with the trough that's still sitting here over parts of Russia, north of Ukraine and the Black Sea, we do see the models over the next week picking up on widely scattered showers and storms in that area as well. So that's an important agriculturally productive area. And we're going to finish here by taking a quick update on what's going on in Asia. And first of all, we do have our next pulse moving in later on in the next 7-day time period of the Indian monsoon. We actually need more rainfall than this. This has been dry over the last week or so. So this is a good thing, but not much. South of Beijing, just hit or miss showers and thunderstorms, while the northern growing regions of China getting quite a bit of precipitation over the next 7 days. And we are watching a tropical system that is sneaking right up here along the coast of China, hitting Japan. So that particular tropical system, just since I'm talking about it right now, the next 5 days in the tropics in the Atlantic are relatively quiet, but we're going to have to keep a close eye on that as we progress forward throughout the next couple of weeks here. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to our next Ag Forecast videos that are coming out every day of the week at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. I will talk to you again soon. Have a great week and a great weekend. Thank you.